Hello, everyone. Welcome to Southeast Iowa Union Prep Sports Plus, powered by Fairway Food Stores. And oh my gosh, my new haircut looks even worse when I have the headset on. Shout out to haircut season. Apparently, I'm the only one celebrating because it's not a popular thing to get a haircut when it's freezing out, Jack.
True, yeah, you like the extra hair for some layers of protection from the elements.
That's right. I go against I go against the grain. I'm a play action on first down, run on third down type of coach. So I go against the grain a little bit. We're powered as always by who, Jack?
Fairway food stores.
Fairway Food Stores, the best. I'll tell you what. One of my favorite things to get is those. I'm addicted to microwave meals. I'm in that stage of my life where like stop Stouffer's and Healthy Choices and Hungry Man, and I have a full freezer full of microwave meals, and I still bought extra. I found a turkey dinner the other day, and I was like, "It's pretty uh, irresponsible of me to buy extras when I already have a fridge full." But can't get it over it. Um, we gonna start the show on a very somber note. It's kind of difficult because the second time that we've done this, where we've had to kind of address a really tragic death of a one of our athletes, Emmelia Miller from Fairfield, tragically passed away this weekend in another terrible accident. And we are pretty devastated by it. Honestly, she was an athlete, and she played three sports: soccer and softball and volleyball. But she always was kind of battling injuries, and so another thing that she did was photography, and she was on the sidelines with us a lot of the times, and so she was um, one of my absolute favorites. Somebody I always looked forward to chatting with. Somebody who always chatted with me when I was at Fairfield events, and heartbreaking to hear the news. I got the news on Saturday, and had the unfortunate job of then telling Jack the news, and very very tough. Just I mean, as I said, one of my absolute favorites. She was a kid that was sometimes like honest to a fault. Like it was fun talking to her, like after maybe the softball team would lose, and she'd be like, "Hi, Andy," and I'd be, "Oh, Amelia, you guys are getting better," and she'd be like, she'd do their eye roll thing, and so she was just one of the coolest kids that I got to know through this job, and so. Our hearts, obviously, and our prayers are with Fairfield and the Miller family and Pekin, because I know a couple teachers were involved in that crash as well. So Jack, it's a tough year
Yeah.
for Southeast Iowa, and it's. I mean, we've had a few tough years the last couple.
Yeah, it was super devastating to hear the news. I mean, that is just never, never easy to deal with, and is always, going to hit these communities and these schools really hard. And it seems like once again, similarly to, when Carson passed away and the Washington community is impacted like that, the response has been, if there's one positive thing I've seen, it's that all of these communities have banded together really well. I was at Pekin on a Tuesday night, which we'll talk about. And, of course, like you said, they had two teachers who were involved in that crash, and their girls basketball team wore some of they wore black and orange ribbons in their hair in support of Fairfield, and there's been a bunch of those black and orange days at the schools. So this being there for each other in this time is the important thing. But yeah, it's never an easy thing, always an awful thing to have to talk about. But um, our thoughts are definitely with her family right now.
Yeah, that's been one of the maybe the few positives of social media and everybody like kind of knowing each other through online is that it's more, when something happens, it's more the whole Southeast Iowa kind of comes together. It's not just
Yeah,
it's not just one or two schools in a vacuum, and we've seen that. Unfortunately, we've had to see that because this and Carson, Ryan earlier this year, and that those weren't even the first tragedies that we've had in recent years for this area. But yeah, this one again, we there's some kids that we know well from sports interviews and stuff like that, and there's some kids that we don't always maybe do one or two with, but don't chat. And there are some kids that it seems like every time I was at a Fairfield event for something, there was a reason for for to chat it up with Amelia or Millie. A lot of people knew her as, and so there actually we had her on. We were she did such a good job at photography. We actually were sneaking her onto our media list because you get three media spots for like state events when you're a newspaper, and there's only two of me and Jack, and so she has her own, or she had her own photography thing, I think, on Instagram, and she took a lot of pictures, especially when she was sitting out injured. And so I mean, there are pictures in the newspaper that we used from her when we put her on our media thing. So yeah, it's tough to talk about, and at the same time, I feel like I want to talk about it because it was so tough. But we're gonna shift to the rest of the show, and because of a few different things, including the weather, there were a little less games and stuff going on this weekend. Friday night was a crazy one where there were maybe like 15% of games that went on. Did you
Yeah.
end up anywhere on? No, neither of us ended up anywhere on Friday.
Nope. No,
We kept playing with places to go.
we stayed snowed in, but yeah, a couple of teams still were in action on the spot. I think all of the big schools, or actually, I think Fort Madison and Mount Pleasant played one another. But from in terms of the small schools, some teams kind of moved their stuff up to Thursday. But Friday night, I know for small schools in the SEISC, it was Highland. They were in action against Wapello, and then Waco and Hillcrest still played as well. The Ravens got the dub. Actually, got the sweep. They beat the girls team beat Waco by 2. Boys team cruised 61-45. Highland lost on the boys' side to Wapello, and won on the girls' side.
Yeah, and we'll Highland keeps rolling on the girls' side. They rolled last night, and we'll talk about that a little. So there was only, I believe, out of our three big schools, there was only Mount Pleasant that played. They played at Fort Madison, but luckily Fort Madison does have it on Huddle, which isn't quite the Southeast Iowa Union Video Network. There was no score bugger announcer, but I watched the Huddle broadcast. Specifically because I was kind of flipping back and forth, but so specifically of the boys game, where one of the wildest games in the area happened. Mount Pleasant was at Fort Madison. It was a rematch of a game earlier this year where Mount Pleasant had beaten Fort Madison in a pretty close game, but it was a game where there was so many more players in this one because both teams had injured players at that time, and so this is the first time they really got to meet up. As far as their whole roster, and we've seen that Fort Madison has been way better. Well, and Mount Pleasant has been way better since that has since they've gotten their players back. So looking at the so this one went into overtime, Jack. Mount Pleasant was down and came all the way back to tie the game. I want to get the score right here at the third quarter because the game was tied at the end of the third quarter. And so the final was 63-61. The game was tied at the end of the third quarter. Fort Madison scored the first 9 points of the fourth quarter and then didn't score again in the fourth quarter. Mount Pleasant came back, scored the next 9 points in the fourth quarter. So they were actually down 9 in the fourth, came back and tied it. Both teams had a shot. Mount Pleasant actually had what looked to be a putback attempt by Clayton Lowry. I think it was an air ball, and he rebounded it, and he kind of shuffled his feet a little bit when he went up for the layup. He got crushed on the layup, and so when they blew the whistle, I think everyone thought, oh, they called a foul call. They're going to have free throws to win it, but instead, Fort Madison got a shot, and it went off. Anyway, then you get back to the fourth quarter, and game's tied. The Veach only scored 4 points, and at this point, Darius Foy, who was the big tall kid down low for Fort Madison, had fouled out. which means Mount Pleasant had even more of a rebounding advantage than they usually have. And so with 7 seconds to go, they throw the ball into Ryan Helling, who's standing basically on the logo at center court for Mass. He's barely inside, and he throws up a long shot. And I think part of it was just like, we might as well just chuck one up, because if it misses and we have enough time, we're probably going to get the rebound. That's exactly what happened. Isaiah Lang was standing under the basket. It hit off the backboard perfectly into his hand, laid it up, and Mount Pleasant got the win 63-61, which was their second big win in a row. They had upset Oskaloosa last week. And then the Panther boys played Mid Prairie on Monday night. And in kind of a similar situation, it was tied in the fourth quarter. In fact, Mid Prairie had to come all the way back. Not all the way back, but Mount Pleasant was leading the whole game. And Mid Prairie had scrapped back, and on a big Bryce Henry three with about 3 minutes left, they had tied it, which at that point, given how hot Mid Prairie can get shooting the ball, and Mount Pleasant still, hasn't gotten a ton of wins this season. You kind of thought, oh, they let Mid Prairie get back into this. It's tied. Golden Hawks are going to run away with it. But Panthers scored on the very next possession and never gave the lead back up again. A very defensive game, 49-42. And in this one also, Isaiah Lang was the leading scorer with 13 points. Aiden Humble had 10 for the Panthers, and they held Bryce Henry to 17, which is fine if you're going against Mid Prairie. You just don't want him to go for like 35. So, and you could tell there were a couple of shots that he threw up that I was like, that just rolled out. If that would have went in, we were about to see, he was kind of starting to feel it, where you're like, he's going to start doing the thing where he's stepping back and banging in threes and taking over the game. And so big win for Mount Pleasant at home. Girls wise, Mount Pleasant lost to Fort Madison, and then in the girls' game against Mid Prairie, now two teams that are kind of going in different ways. Mid Prairie has a stacked team this year, like a team that I think could legitimately go far in the regional if they even make it to state. And they're coming off of you probably hear my dog through the headphones. They're coming off of a week where they had a lot of ranked teams, so they came back. Now Mid Prairie is actually not completely healthy. Georgia Evans was out sick; she was not even in there. I don't know if she was in Mount Pleasant, probably not. And so they weren't as up and down the court, like sprinting up and down, like we're used to seeing them. So they had to score a lot more in the half court. And Morgan Bender, 26 points, and she just caught fire. 26 points, 7 rebounds for her, and Mid Prairie beat Mount Pleasant 61-32. Something funny in this, Mount Pleasant scored 12 points in the first quarter, and Abigail Shelongoski had all 12. And so it was 19-12 at the end of the first quarter, and Coach Jenny Hobbs from Mid Prairie stopped her team at the end of the first quarter and made them look at the scoreboard. And she said, she was like, I want you all to look at their scores and tell me what you notice. And then waited for the girls to say, oh, there's only one girl has all their points. And so they had a better job defensively on Shelongoski from that point out, and she ended up with, I think, just 14 points. So they did a really good job. Mid Prairie's pretty solid on the girls' side. So that's your week in MP/MP hoops. And Jack, you were also at a big school game on a Monday night.
Yeah, I went to Washington. They had a doubleheader out of conference against Ottumwa. Different stories in the boys and girls games there. The girls team, man, I'll make a little bit of a future prediction here. Ottumwa will win a state championship in the next probably 2 seasons in girls basketball. They are absolutely ridiculous. They have 4 players averaging double figures in scoring. 3 of them are freshmen, including a 6'1" forward named Emma Ryder, who had 18 points and 12 rebounds in this game, was very, very dominant. So Washington ends up falling 51-36, and really, yet, still, as is the theme with the Washington girls basketball team, like they are not out of any game. Really, the difference in this was the first quarter they got down 10-2, and couldn't really ever flip that. They got it, I think, within 5 early in the third, and then into the fourth quarter. They outscored Ottumwa in the third, but Just a little bit too much firepower for um, the Bulldogs. They are going to be a really ridiculous team to stop. So, again, no such thing necessarily as a good loss, probably. If you're a coach or a player, but Washington's last two games are to a very good Ottumwa team, and then they lost by 8 to a ranked Tipton squad. So those are good losses, I think, if you can be all right taking.
I have to read off something to you, Jack.
Sure.
This is the Ottumwa Bulldog last year's eighth grade girls basketball scores. 63-0 in their first game, beat Keokuk. 49-4, 53-11, 61-4, 51, or sorry, 54-1, 56-12, 41-2, 47-17, 44-8, 58-11, 42-4, and 53-13. That was something that I kept track of last year when I realized, like, oh my gosh, it almost got a crazy good eighth grade girls basketball team. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So they're now all freshmen, and they will be very, very, very good for the next 3 years. So not a. I don't think Washington can hang their heads too low, but they're going to want to bounce back in their next game. And then on the boys' side, they did take some revenge. They won 67-58. It was a really good game. Washington, needed kind of a big third quarter, and then outscored Ottumwa by 1 in the fourth. It was actually they were winning, and then Ottumwa went on a 9-0 run to start the fourth quarter, took a lead. Washington called timeout, came out of the timeout. Rajan Roth got an offensive rebound on their next possession. We're pretty sure he had more. I'm going to go check it. I haven't yet, but we're pretty sure he had more offensive rebounds than points, and he finished with 14 points. So he was absolutely ridiculous on the glass. He gets an O board. Nick Stone scores. They go back up 51-49 and then never trailed the rest of the way. Scored 11 of their last 18 points at the free throw line. They were really clutch. Kill Williams hit a big three late in the fourth quarter as well. They had 4 double-digit scores. Drew Conrad, who was hurt when Washington, of course, lost to Carlisle. And I talked with Nick Stone after that game, and he said, after the Ottumwa game, and he kind of said, I think if he was healthy, we would have beat them. And he was healthy for this game, scored 24 points. Roth and Cale Williams both had 14. Stone had 10, which is the usual output for Washington when they're winning games. Very good effort on the glass. They played ridiculously well defensively in the third quarter after turning the ball over quite a lot in the first half. They also went down early 12-5. Ottumwa hit a buzzer beater to tie it at the end of the first quarter. So credit to Washington for kind of not letting that get to them. Ottumwa does not have a very good record, but they are a 4A school, and so that's a nice, I think, win for the Demons, who have now won 2 in a row and are 9-5, which matches, Andy, their win total from last season. So the girls and boys have now equaled their marks from last year. So that's a good sign.
I'll tell you what, that is a good sign, and that makes me. I'm kind of itching for the union and the association to put out the brackets. I think come out next week. We were talking, especially 3A girls. So, I was talking with Paul Boker over at the Kelowna News about whether or not Mid Prairie and Washington would get in the same bracket. They do sometimes, and sometimes they split different ways. But for boys, it's going to be crazy because of the way the map goes out, they almost always stick the 5 SEC 3A teams together: Fairfield, Mount Pleasant, Washington, Fort Madison, and Keokuk. And maybe the way Keokuk's playing this year, that they would do that because you'd have a higher seed in that group. And that you might get a preview of a 4 versus 5 game when Washington and Mount Pleasant play on Friday night. So, and
It's a
that's
big one for
gonna
boys.
be a big game.
Huge,
Oh,
huge boys game.
I mean, it's big enough when the rival teams play against each other, but at this point, they're next to each other in the standings now, and so it definitely feels like a bigger one. So, and I mean, our boys basketball teams, when they play the 3 SEC schools that we cover, Mount Pleasant, Fairfield, Washington, they always seem to play in close games. There have been some absolute classics between the Panthers and Demons on the boys' side, and on the girls' side, Mount Pleasant hopes to pull the shocker, and Washington hopes to keep going. And by the way, first game coached at the old gym for Colin Mulford, Washington's girls basketball
Yeah,
coach,
good
the
piece.
house that
Good.
Colin built.
Yep, yep.
That should be interesting. So, that's all we got for this basketball. We got some more hoop, hoops when we come back. And you're going to come back because we told you to. So you're going to stay here. You will sit through the commercials. You will be back for the B block, and you will enjoy more Southeast Iowa Union Prep Sports Plus. We'll be back.
Introducing Hy-Vee Market Grill, where every meal is a delight. Start your day with our mouthwatering breakfast options and savor flavorful lunches with friends and family. Cap off your day with our delectable dinners. Hy-Vee Market Grill, where every moment is delicious.
The Connie and Amanda team is dedicated to giving back to our community by actively engaging with our clients, businesses, and the public. When it comes to helping you find your next home, investment, or commercial space, the Connie and Amanda team is here for you.
At WCHC, our goal is to take great care of our patients and our staff.
We are able to approach you, take care of your issues, but also give you a path, as far as referrals or treating you right then and there.
Our role in the community is taking care of something that matters to everyone. It's their family and their health.
More than you expect for your health care.
Welcome back, Southeast Iowa Union Prep Sports Plus. I'm colorblind, Jack. You're not in black and white right now, are you?
No.
Huh.
Yeah, see, we come back to the...
We're back on Prep Sports Plus. We're here at Churchill Downs. Powered by Fairway Food Stores. As always, Jack, you were at some small school hoops in beautiful Packwood, Iowa. If you can even really call it Packwood, it's kind of in the country of Packwood, Pekin High School. I'm glad that you got past the any gravel that you had to pick to get there. And tell me, Hillcrest versus Pekin, how'd it go?
Well, do you want me to run through scores first or a recap
Good
first?
Do recap that, then we'll run through.
All right, I will recap that, and then we can run through. I was at probably an SCISC North Classic. I may not be privy enough to say that yet, but man, this was one of the better basketball games I think I've watched all year between Pekin and Hillcrest on the boys' side. First of all, on the girls' side, Pekin taking care of business. They ended up handling Hillcrest pretty well, 49-31 with the win. Hillcrest got it within 13 there in the second half, but a really slow start kind of doomed them. And a 10th win for Pekin sets them up for probably a home playoff game in their first year under Neil Hartz. So a nice win definitely for the Panther girls team, and they're really clicking under him, which is definitely exciting. And then in the boys game, I mean, it was a classic, an outstanding game. Pekin started up 9-2. Hillcrest came all the way back, ended up taking a lead after the first quarter with an 11-0 run. Went up 13-2. And it was actually going to be 13-8. Instead, it was 13-11 because Pekin had to hit a three at the buzzer. That was all she wrote for Hillcrest in terms of leading in this game. Pekin, by the end of the third quarter, they were up 25-23 at halftime. Then at the end of the third quarter, we're up 40-28. Had a huge third. Hillcrest, I think, hit one field goal in about 6 minutes. Just went absolutely ice cold against Pekin's defense. They were totally kind of out aggressive. They were more aggressive than them, just kind of out scrapping, out hustling, playing really well on the boards. Quarter, Hillcrest gets it back down to, I think, 3, and then some turnovers late. Pekin turns those into layups. The play of the game was Hillcrest put on a press, subbed one of their guys out who was guarding Cole Milliken of Pekin, who's their best scorer, finished with 19 points. They took that guy out on the very next play. The guy who comes in for him loses Milliken. He leaks out for a full court inbounds pass, makes the layup, gets fouled, and 1 3-point play. And then Hillcrest sort of fell apart in the final minutes from there and ended up losing 42-54, which you could not say before tonight for Hillcrest. They were 13-0 in the SCISC, and they are no more. Pekin took them down. The Panthers are rolling right now. They've won 8 straight. I can't remember if they've now jumped in front of Winfield into second place behind Hillcrest, but they are playing like probably the best team in the conference right now. And not to take anything away from Hillcrest, they still look good at times. That they'll be a team that'll win a playoff game or two and try and have the ability to make a run. But yeah, I think it was less of what Hillcrest didn't do and more of what Pekin did to just slow them down on defense. They were awesome.
If I were to pick a team that is going to have a lower seed and make a huge run, it would be Pekin. I think they're going to end up kind of in that mid level. I think maybe by the second round they'll be playing like one of the favorites. And I think that Pekin has all the tools to make a huge run through the North. I'll double check on those North standings after I throw them on. I'll let you roll through the scores from Friday, and then the boys scores from
Yes.
Tuesday, and then I'll run from I'll follow with the Tuesday girls scores. So have at it.
Yep. So Friday and Saturday, obviously a limited sample size in games. On the girls' side, Mid Prairie, Keota, both winners. Mid Prairie beat West Liberty 61-37. Keota over HLVTC 47-32. Pekin actually lost to Lone Tree. That was actually one thing Neil Hart said to me after they beat Hillcrest was that they played really poorly on Thursday and were able to kind of respond. Waco lost to Sigourney. Winfield Mount Union fell by 7 to Central Lee. And then in those Friday games, I mentioned it, Hillcrest beating Waco 52-50, held on for a win there. Highland beat Wapello 52-35. They actually clinched the SCISC North in girls, so congratulations to the Highland Huskies. They're 13-0. No one's catching them. They are the North Division champs. Van Buren County fell to Danville. New London lost to a ranked Meepo team, and Davis County Davis County beat Cardinal, rather. And then the boys, same games going back to Thursday. Mid Prairie made a sweep over West Liberty 72-51 on the boys' side. Pekin won over Lone Tree. That was, at the time, their 7th straight win. Keota beat HLVTC 62-33. Waco lost to Sigourney 53-42. Winfield Mount Union loses to Central Lee. And then Friday, Hillcrest beats Waco 61-45. Highland fell to Wapello. Van Buren County lost to Danville. Meepo lost to New London. And then in your heartbreaker of the week, Andy, final score in OT, Davis County 59, Cardinal 53. Cardinal had a chance to win this game at the free throw line. Elijah Fraze missed 2 free throws, had a 3 to potentially tie it in overtime, missed the 3, got an O board, and then committed a turnover. The Mustangs converted into a layup, went up by 5, and were able to see out a win. So a tough one for your Highland Huskies. That was unfortunate to see for them. And then quick results from Tuesday on the boys' side. Then Andy will give you the results in the girls' games. Mid Prairie bounces back after losing to Mount Pleasant. They beat Durant 74-57. Elsewhere in the SEISC North, Wapello beats Columbus 61-41. Already talked about Hillcrest. Pekin. Waco beating Highland 59-42. In the Southland, New London lost to Holy Trinity 63-50. And then in the SCC, Andy, we're going to need a score report research because Cardinal and Albia, no score reported on the boys' side. Keota beats Colfax Mingo in the Sickle 64-41. So those are your Tuesday boys results. How about on the girls' side, Andy?
First off, my dog heard the disappointing news about that Cardinal loss, and he is taking it
brutal. I rewatched the end of it on Huddle. It was tough.
Yeah, it's tough. Gosh, they're good enough to get a couple of wins. We have a couple of teams like that. You know what? A lot of times in high school basketball, it's just like some teams just have the good stuff kind of go their way at the end of games. You almost have to learn that to have the ball bounce your way at the end of games. But girls on Tuesday. Columbus takes down Wapello 50-42. You talked about the Pekin Hillcrest game. Highland beats Waco. Highland already clinched to the queens of the North. Beats Waco 56-45. They have Pekin on Friday and Sigourney on Saturday. So Highland has some big warm-up games, and then you have they'll obviously be in the number 1 game at the Super Conference Championships next week. So in the South, the super duper South, we had, wait a minute. What day is today? 28th. Why isn't we might have a double score problem because I'm looking for this New London versus Holy Trinity score and it's not on here. Sad news. We'll look for that one as well. How about in the South Central Conference? Albia 53, Cardinal 10. Albia is a good girls basketball team. And we're going to go to the River Valley South, where the Mid-Prairie Golden Hawks kept it going, beating Durant 51-37. And in the South Iowa Cedar League, Keota 54-28 over Colfax. Mingo. Keota right now is 13-4. I'll tell you what, they're gonna have a tough time figuring out how to the local 1A bracket's gonna be you assume the Highland and Keota, but the Sigourney also are going to be kind of all scrunched in there. I don't know if any of them are good enough to have like a 1 seed though, so that's probably going to be a 2, 3, 4. That's going to be an interesting bracket. The semifinals, assuming they're all stuck together, the semifinals for that region is going to be something to watch. And then, I was going to look up the super duper North standings in the boys because we said we didn't know whether or not Pekin was above Winfield Mount Union. And researcher Jack's on the case.
They are not technically. Winfield Mount Union 10-2, Pekin is 10-3. So.
Okay. So Winfield Mount Union still got
their win percentage. Yes, better. 13-1 Hillcrest, 10-2 Winfield, 10-3 Pekin. If Hillcrest wins out, they still will win the Super Conference.
And then an important part of that is that Pekin or Winfield does not play Hillcrest anymore, right? Because Hillcrest and Winfield's already played twice. So Hillcrest just needs a couple more wins. And then so Hillcrest will most likely be the number 1 seed on February the 7th, where the 2026 Winter Olympics will be overshadowed by the 2026 Super Conference Championship and second place games at SCC in Burlington, Iowa. I'll tell you what, if I'm going to that game, I don't even care if my battery's dead on my phone. I'm not even checking those Olympic scores because there's much more important stuff happening on the floor of SEC. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bowling, a little wrestling, maybe a little preview to some big time wrestling stuff going on this weekend. That's called a teaser, folks. Please do not go anywhere.
Attention Hy-Vee shoppers, introducing Hy-Vee Perks, your ticket to exclusive savings and rewards. Access exclusive perks, prices, earn gas discounts, and unlock special deals. All this for free. Join Hy-Vee Perks today and start saving.
At Seafirst Credit Union, we're all about making connections, like how we connect you to that dream vacation with a savings account designed to help get you on the flight there. Connect with Seafirst today and see why together is better.
Bring the kids and share the memories at the 2026 Midwest Old Threshers Reunion. Experience the sights, sounds, and traditions of steam engines, antique cars and trucks, tractors, and more. First visit or a family tradition. Enjoy home-style food, the excitement of an Old West shootout, and nightly entertainment. For generations, this is where memories are made. Celebrate history and make new memories at the Midwest Old Threshers Reunion, September 3rd through 7th in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. Visit oldthreshers.com for more details.
In the heart of rural Iowa, where community matters most, the connections we make are made to last. Meet KCTC, your hometown internet, phone, and TV provider. At KCTC, we're not just about technology, we're about people. Our dedicated team are your neighbors, committed to bringing you top-tier services right where you live. We believe in giving back to the community that raised us. Experience the power of a real connection with KCTC. Join us in building a stronger, more connected Southeast Iowa.
Welcome back, everyone. Southeast Iowa Union. Blah, 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 blah. Prep Sports Plus. I can almost make my headphones fall off now that I don't have all that hair connecting them to the rest of my head. We're gonna talk a little wrestling, a little bowling. Jackie, you said you some little weekend wrestling results.
Yeah, give some winners from the weekend. In wrestling, it was a big day for Washington at the Louisa Muscatine Invite. A couple of champs, two on the boys' side, one on the girls' side for the Demons. Blaine Reese at 190, Caden Griner at 138. Both took home first place finishes. And then Raya Wellington won the 140-pound bracket on the girls' side. So a couple of exciting wrestlers in good form at a good time for Washington. And then Fairfield also had a champion on the girls' side at the LM meet. Samantha Lyons, 170-pound bracket. They had a champion there. Then their boys' team was actually at the Williamsburg Raider Invitational. Dane Burkhart, who has had an outstanding year, he was a champion at 175. So some good results for some big school wrestlers. And then Speaking of Kyoto were probably the big winners among the small schools. They had two champions at the North Tama Invitational. Riker Vanden Heuvel, I think it's Heuvel, Huevel, I assume. He won at 138, and Dylan Menke won at 165. They also had a champion on the girls' side, Carly Griner at 155. Ian Mays, he won the 113-pound bracket at the Kurt, is it Hinchberger Invitational over at Belle Plaine. Rocky Hamilton from Highland, also a champion at 138 pounds in that meet. So yeah, just a quick recap. But yeah, a lot of champions over the weekend for our big and small schools.
I'll tell you what, we have a big event on Saturday during the day, the Southeast Iowa Southeast Iowa Classic, which is now the Southeast Conference Classic. Now, the Southeast Iowa Classic has always been like the conference meet, but sometimes there have been other Southeast Iowa teams in Centerville, sometimes at Temwa, sometimes that's at Fairfield. Right now, what I see from the list is all SEC now. So there's going to be some battles there because the conference wrestling meet on the boys' side the season has been topsy-turvy, up and down. Fairfield over Mount Pleasant on Thursday night and a couple of SEC duels. Trojans won the girls' duel 31-30. It was 30-30, Jack, and there were the exact same number of points for everything. So Fairfield and Mount Pleasant both had 2 pins for 12 points, and they both had 4 forfeits for 4 or 5 forfeits for the same amount of 4 forfeits. And so they had to go down to the 7th tiebreaker to figure out who won. And Fairfield won because it went down to whoever got the most points on their first scoring move, basically. So Fairfield scored on a takedown, while Mount Pleasant scored on an escape. A takedown is more points than an escape. And so Trojans won that one. And then the Trojan boys won. Now, Fairfield and Washington had to postpone that wrestling meet. I don't know what they're going to do about the conference championship race or how that's going to work out, because right now Fairfield, Washington, and Fort Madison all have 1 loss, correct? But I guess Fort Madison has beaten both of those teams.
I think it might be a co-conference champion situation, depending on how it goes at Mount Pleasant.
That is an interesting kind of deal. But that almost never happens. I'm telling you, we usually have. It's usually like one team goes 4-0, or 5-0 now, the Burlington, and it's over. And then, or two teams are, tied for first, and then they play each other. Anyway, I was at a little bowling last night, Jack. I was at a little bowling, and although the team results did not quite go the way of the Southeast Iowa Union, Fairfield's Dason Workman dominates everyone 458. Clutch boy, remember he had a walk-off home run in baseball this last year. He was able to be the Union's star. Caden Zier got fourth for Washington. Washington boys had I think 4 in the top 12. And on the girls' side, and I'm reading this handwriting and trying to get everyone here, but Mount Pleasant had 3 in the top 6, including Cheyenne Smith getting 4th. So team-wise, first off, on the girls' side, Keokuk scores so well that it's just like, how's anybody going to beat these girls? They won 25-16. Mount Pleasant got 2nd, Burlington 3rd, Fairfield 4th. Of course, Fort Mass doesn't have bowling, and Washington doesn't have girls bowling, so there's only 4 teams in that. On the boys' side, it was I think 102 pins that Washington was behind Keokuk going into the Baker games. Baker games, there's 5 of them. You throw one score out, and so they won. They beat Keokuk. They don't go at the same time, but the Washington's first Baker game score was higher than Keokuk's, so they inched closer, and he kind of started to be like, okay, here we go. Now Washington just needs a little bit of, they just need to kind of beat them from here on out, and they could cut into that lead. And something kicked into those Keokuk kids, Jack, and they were unbelievable. Keokuk, there was a kid for Keokuk, I forget his name, but when he got a strike, he would just turn around and yell bowling as loud as he could. I mean, it was the intensity.
Doing a voice like this, bowling, like that.
He was like, no, it was more like this, bowling, like that. And they would all, it was like defensive line getting a sack on the quarterback. It was, and so I'll tell you what, our crowds travel pretty well because Keokuk's, but Washington had a nice crowd for going all the way to Keokuk, and but you know what, it's tough to beat the Chiefs and the at Arrowhead Bowl, and Keokuk wins 29-33. Washington got 2nd, Mount Pleasant 3rd. Burlington 3rd, Fairfield 4th, Mount Pleasant 5th. So Workman, his huge day led Fairfield all the way up to 4th, and he's our knight in shining armor. But Keokuk bowling, man, they just keep doing it.
It's a wagon. It's tough to unseat.
It's the wagon, and you know what? It's a wagon that I guess for state qualifying, I guess only Mount Pleasant will have to deal with that because 3A, because they're in 2 different classes, right? Fairfield and Washington back in 1A, Mount Pleasant in 2A. So,
yep.
Yeah, and tell you what, if you go to Keokuk bowling, they had 2 championship trophies up. They had their championship from like 2023 or something. It was a 1A girls championship, and they bumped to 2A the next year, and they won that championship. So it's like, they had a 1A bracket with a 2A bracket. And so I had a friend there, and he's like, did they bump them up because they won? Did you go up another class? I was like, nope, just how it turned out. So I don't know, man. Keokuk bowling. I mean, Keokuk bowling is so dominant that they have crossed the border into Missouri and become the home of Culver Stockton bowling. So,
oh my gosh,
Culver Stockton plays their home bowling in Keokuk.
Oh, that's hilarious.
They're literally going across, state lines, and pretty soon Keokuk bowling will rule this world, and we're all just gonna have to accept it. And I think the next line of presidents will probably be about 10 or 20 graduates who bowled for Keokuk. So. The faster we just let the reality take us over, the faster we're gonna get through it. So that's my lesson. That's my lesson ending. For you watchers and viewers, you got any thoughts, Jack?
No, I'm looking forward to this. Wrestling this weekend, some conference meets. You get, we're getting closer to. I mean, we've got state qualifying for girls here on Friday. That's going to be really exciting. to see how those fare. If you want a quick rundown of just where the teams are,
Yeah, that would be great, actually.
Highland will be at a Midland. They are by themselves, unfortunately, among the Union schools. Most of the schools will be at Wapello, actually. Cardinal, Columbus, Fairfield, Mid Prairie, Sigourney, Keota, Van Buren County, and Waco will be there. Going to Williamsburg is Pekin and Washington, and Mount Pleasant will be at Ottumwa in 2A, of course.
I'll tell you what. It's actually Mount Pleasant's first. I think this is Mount Pleasant's first time bumped up to 2A in wrestling. So usually everyone was together, even the small, because 1A and 2A. So everyone was kind of together. I'll tell you what, Wapello, the wrestling regional Wapello does a great job running it. That gym is so small though that it is going to be. Do not wear like a sweater that you can't take off with a t-shirt underneath it, guys. It is hot in there.
Noted.
There's a million people. We called it, I think my old colleague Doug used to call it a tuna can. Going to the tuna can over at Wapello. That's what it feels like. So that's all we got, everyone. Same bat time, same bat channel next week, Southeast Iowa Union Prep Sports Plus. Remember to watch all of the Southeast Iowa Union Video Network videos, even on replay. You can go watch those games we just talked about, a few of them on the internets. So go do that.